Well, courtesy of our next-gen rink cam here at Summerlin Hospital Rink, the Vegas Golden Knights, as they continue in phase number 3 of the NHL's return to play program, and back on the ice here at City National Arena as the Golden Knights, along with the rest of the NHL, try to continue to push towards what would be phase 4 and the resumption of this season, and of course the Stanley Cup Playoffs coming up later on this month into early August. Dave Gosher along with Stormy Bonantoni. Great to have you with us here on this Saturday morning. So the Golden Knights now, Stormy, this is the 5th time they've been on the ice, right? They started on Monday, and now, so they go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take Thursday off, got back at it yesterday, and then again this morning. Gary Lawless, by the way, is going to join us a little bit later on in the show. We can't wait for that, as always.
As always.
What have been your general impressions here as you've kind of observed the team here through their first 4 days on the ice?
They got off to a fast start. And first of all, how fast has this week gone by in general? I can't believe it's already Saturday. It's funny how during the season we kind of go game day, non-game day. You forget what day of the week it is. And right now it's like training camp practice day, non-practice day. So it's all kind of blurring together already. But the team on the ice has looked really solid, I think. And even just in our media availability, talking to different players and talking to head coach Pete DeBoer, it sounds like they are ahead of where Pete DeBoer expected them to be. He wasn't really sure what was going to happen day one because while he heard from everybody that everybody was working hard, he wasn't actually physically out there on the ice with the team. So he's been impressed. They've looked sharp. They've looked fast. And it's exciting to see where they could be once they really do ramp things up.
Well, one of the bigger stories, and Pete DeBoer tried to downplay it, was the absence of that man through the first couple of days of the training camp, Marc-Andre Fleury, but as you can see, returned yesterday here again on the ice as well today. We invite you, of course, to send us in your questions. Thanks for tuning in on all of our social media channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. And thank you to all of our Twitch subscribers as well. But it was great to see Marc-Andre Fleury back out there yesterday, Stormy. And, Pete DeBoer, again, tried to downplay it. He said, look, and one of the things that I think it's easy to forget at times is these guys had been skating for 5 weeks, first in the groups of 6, then in the groups of 12 before they ever got to phase 3. So, he kind of talked about it being a couple of maintenance days, but, I think there's a part of you, until you see him out there with your own eyes, you get a little curious as, is he going to be okay? But he looks like he's more than okay.
Yeah, for sure. He looked great in the first practice back yesterday after missing those first 3. And I think Pete DeBoer really got the last laugh on this one a little bit because he was able to put all of those, whatever rumors might have been out there in the Twitter-sphere or whatever, he could kind of put those to bed and just say, look, I told you that he was going to be out here before the weekend. He's here. He's doing fine. And it was just good to see. And, you could tell just how excited he was to be out there and how much the team responded to him being out there as well. I loved when he first came on camera and he was with Ryan Reeves skating around. Did you see the smiles on both of those guys?
Yeah,
awesome.
The dude back on the ice. Eric on Facebook sends in a question. Well, it's a statement first. Says it's nighttime, but then what is our favorite part about nighttime?
What's your favorite part?
It's funny. Every time our man Carnell Johnson is singing the national anthem at T-Mobile and they get to Gabe Proof through and I'm waiting for the whole crowd to go night. So
even on the road.
To the point where on the road, I wait for it because I'm an idiot, and they're not going to do that in Calgary or wherever we might be playing at that particular time. But I think that's probably because you're getting closer and closer to the opening phase. So the whole show, we've seen it now for 3 years. The whole show is off the charts. But I think just that part of it, everybody in normal times, remember normal times? Everybody on their feet at T-Mobile. But that part where everyone yells out night is probably there for me. What about you?
I'm really going to miss Big D in the house.
Yeah, on to Nashville.
Congratulations to him. Yes. An amazing opportunity for Big D. But of course, the Golden Knights fans and all of us that work with the team are really, really going to miss his presence. But he and I have this little thing that we do pre-game, and he's made so much fun of me for it, but I love it. When he does the Wags Hit the Bells pre-game, I do it with him. And I take my microphone and throw it out for when the bing, when it goes.
What's the noise again?
I'm not doing it again. It's probably deeper too. It's like, I won't even make the deeper impression of it either.
Sound like me.
But
Bing.
we totally do that. And I kind of get with the little kids that are usually next to the bench while he has the kids that are higher up on the stairs. And we kind of just jokingly do wags, hit the bells, boom.
So you just throw the mic out to nobody in particular?
To whatever little kid is sitting next to me
you
on
do?
the bench.
Okay, there is a youngster
so
there.
there's physically a divider with the glass, but that's what I try to do.
Oh, that's good. I'm sure the
fun.
kids appreciate that. Checking in, Dan on Twitch, watching from the UK. Hello, Dan. All right, let me do a quick thing here, Stormy. So right now, it is 6:13 at night over in the UK. Just to let you know, that's the time change.
On a Saturday, no less, and you're tuning in with us.
On a Saturday night in the UK, exactly right. But again, Next Jam Arena Cam here at City National Arena in our Summerlin Hospital rink, the Golden Knights, and they've used both of the rinks, and they will continue to throughout training camp, both Summerlin Hospital and Star Nursery. But as you can see, the guys filtering out onto the ice, and I'd asked you, Stormy, your general thoughts of the first several days here on the ice, and similar to me, I think what has impressed Pete DeBoer and his staff the most is just that they're ahead of probably where they thought they were going to be, especially the first couple of days. He had said yesterday, you don't really know what you're going to get. This is such an unnormal situation. It's not like you're coming back after a summer off and kind of ease your way into training camp and then some exhibition games and into the regular season. As you take a look at assistant coach Steve Spott over at the whiteboard as they're about ready to get underway with practice, this is a whole different story, and he attributed it to basically to a man. Their approach during the quarantine, they all stuck here in Vegas for the most part, all went through their own workouts. I think might have been Mark Stone or Riley Smith. I think it was Riley Smith yesterday said in the media availability that they held each other accountable to stay in shape. And look, if you're one of those 7 teams that didn't make the playoffs, it's probably a different story. But if you're a team that's going to be in, and especially if you're a team like the Golden Knights, that I think most people would say is a team that's a favorite, or certainly a top contender to emerge to at least play for the Stanley Cup. That's a whole different story. So I think the accountability within that team to keep themselves in great shape, and that showed. They were able to get right into stuff, scrimmages almost right away, as opposed to just kind of slowly making their way into it, because they don't really have a lot of time to waste.
No, they don't at all. And that was something I thought was cool, too, that Pete DeBoer also addressed, was that he had a plan in his mind. He had a lot of things written down of, just maybe where he thought they were going to start. He expected the worst, hoped for the best kind of a scenario, but he didn't plan on scrimmaging day one, and that's exactly what they did. They've been working on more intricate system work. We saw them do a lot of time working on special teams yesterday. So I think those things are really cool to see, that he has implemented things that he hadn't expected to yet. And we've heard every player that's spoken to us so far this week talk about just what you said, Dave, that they put in the work in phase 2 and phase 1. And that's something that Kelly McCrimmon spoke to media about even before training camp began, was that they wanted to gain a competitive advantage during this quarantine period by continuously staying in shape. And that was something they challenged their players with, and the players rose to that occasion.
Riley Smith touched on it yesterday as the guys get going here in practice, their 5th day on the ice. Speaking of Riley Smith, there he is.
Hey.
And he mentioned yesterday their ability as a group to stay together throughout quarantine in terms of having a bigger common goal in mind, to keep the faith. He said, honestly, at times, that wasn't always easy. You look at what's going on in the real world, and even now you see certainly the COVID numbers in a lot of areas of the country going in the wrong direction. But I think they did keep a certain level of faith that they were going to have a playoff, and that if and when that happened, and even if it was going to be in August, September, they wanted to make sure, as you noted, that they were going to be ready. And other teams, it's interesting to see how other teams have handled these first few days of camp. But for the Golden Knights and their ability to jump right into it, pretty much, you'd have to hope, as they get down the road, is going to put them in a real good spot.
Speaking to the way other teams have handled these opening few days, have you seen what Vancouver has done?
Yes.
I thought that was really, really interesting that like their head coach, Travis Green, is simulating a game day in the bubble essentially for them right now. They go out for a morning skate, they put in their work, they do their media availability after morning skate like they normally would, go home, rest up, and then come out for basically like a 225-minute period type of a scrimmage, an inter-squad scrimmage when they come back later on the day, like 7 p.m. Do you foresee anything like that happening here? Or what were your thoughts just on Vancouver taking that approach?
I thought their approach in general was kind of interesting. Some of the stuff they were doing on the ice, it was back to like almost to a degree rudimentary training camp. I guess there's, you can try and simulate it as best you can. I think that, look, we're not going to be in the bubble, which is fine.
You sound bitter.
No, I'm actually okay
kidding.
with it.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'll be able to drive 5 minutes over from my house to CNA and broadcast the games. But I do think that.
Plus, the roof here is pretty solid.
Yeah, it's fine. There's no water damage like they have at Rogers Arena. No, I think that. Look, coaches and teams are going to try all different approaches, I guess, to get themselves ready for this. I also think for the players, to a degree, they might be looking forward to kind of getting into the bubble, right? I mean, this is, and we've touched on this previously, but bears repeating, it's this stretch right now where, they're I don't want to say they're on their own, but they kind of are on their own to make good decisions. I know William Karlsson the other day touched on this, that, to be smart between now and they leave to go to Edmonton, July 26th? 26th, yeah. So that's coming up in basically a week's time.
Next Sunday, yeah.
Yeah. So, but between now and then to be smart and to make the right decisions as they go through on a day-to-day basis. It'll be interesting. Pete DeBoer was asked yesterday about, once you get in the bubble, what snacks are you going to bring and everything else? He said, we're going to Canada, not the moon. They'll have snacks up there that I think we could enjoy.
Darren Millard and I had an entire conversation yesterday on what are some of those Canadian snacks. So maybe people watching on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere that you're watching right now, can you send in some of your favorite Canadian snacks? Darren was telling me all about ketchup chips. And I haven't had those.
Oh, my God,
the concept
great.
of it sounded, I don't know if I would be in on that.
I think I've had ketchup chips for sure. And I think they're like, do they have like chicken parm chips or something like, am I right on that? Yeah, I think I'm right on that. So, but send us in your favorite.
Own questions.
Yeah. Your favorite Canadian snacks. Some check-ins. Michelle on Facebook on her lunch break, enjoying the stream. Thanks for watching, Michelle. K-Shade tuning in on the YouTube from Canada, and Cheyenne watching on Facebook in Manitoba. Some questions. Scotty asked us, we talked about the favorite part of nighttime, and he says, Scotty's on Facebook, says his family will shout out night during the national anthem from home during the playoffs.
My little cousin, from what I understand, does that at home just like pregame. Like they do their own little thing at their own house. And
that's great.
Yeah, he likes yelling night. It's very cute.
That is fantastic. More questions. Jeremy on Facebook asked, where is Shane? I don't know where Shane is.
I'm sorry.
Not my day to watch it.
I know Shane.
Yeah.
I know.
No,
I know.
No, but this is a dramatic upgrade, believe me, with the guy I usually have to sit next to. I'm sure Shane's in the building. If I know Shane, which I think I do a little bit, he's probably over watching practice. Chris
Shane,
on
I'm keeping
Facebook
your seat warm.
Yeah, keeping the seat warm. Chris on Facebook wants to know what will happen to the start of next season. And it's a good question. And maybe, that's been kind of laid out a little bit stormy by the NHL as to, right now anyways, they would push the start of next season back until December the 2nd with the hopes that, things in our world potentially are better. But that's the goal right now anyways, to start in early December.
Yep, and it would be a little bit condensed in terms of all-star break, in terms of different things that I guess the team has become accustomed to, but that's kind of what we have to do. Everybody is in a very unique, little precarious situation here. It's something that we've never seen. We've used the word unprecedented more than I've ever heard the word unprecedented recently.
Pete DeBoer at the whiteboard. Let's listen in a little bit, courtesy of the Next Gen Arena Kit. our Next Gen Cam here at Summerlin Hospital Rink at City National Arena. Golden Knights going through their paces as they continue on with Phase 3 of training camp. Just to kind of follow up, Stormy, on our last question about the start of next season, right now scheduled for December 2nd. And also as part of that question, it was asked, will they lose games? Certainly a good point with starting 2 months later than they usually would. The answer would be no, not unless the owners want to lose revenue. That's not going to happen. They're going to want 41 home games apiece, and then hopefully the playoffs after that. But as you mentioned, no All-Star game, no bye week. You'd have it pretty jammed in. Likely the Stanley Cup Playoffs, you're going to go deeper into June and potentially into July. But that's the hope I keep coming back to, and it's just my 2 cents. Would they potentially push it back until they can get some semblance of fans in the building?
That is where my head constantly goes, because this is such a gate revenue driven league, and I know you guys kind of got into that a lot more when you talked about all the things involving the return to play and the CBA agreement and all of these things. Yeah, all of that still, there were only 4 games lost for the Golden Knights this year at home, right? And just the impact that made financially is very significant, and I don't foresee the league being able to do even a big chunk of games without there being fans in the stands.
You wonder if they could do something of, we've seen it all over the country now, of half capacity, and I'm not a big NASCAR person, but I saw there was I don't know if it was wise or not, but there was a race in Tennessee last week, I think, with 30,000 people there. And I don't know, people smarter than me, and it wouldn't take much to figure that all out. But the Golden Knights continue to go through their practices here. Some more check-ins. Mike on Facebook watching in St. George, Utah. We love Utah.
Nice.
Melissa on Facebook watching in Connecticut, sending love and luck to the Golden Knights. Melissa, thanks very much. All right, let's get to the important thing, Stormy. Canadian snacks.
All right, what's the word? What's the word?
Slash on YouTube says lemon crisps, jams, and poutine.
Jams. What are jams? Do I need to do some Googling right now?
Get on the Google. Robbie on Facebook says Swedish berries and all dressed chips. And we have somebody on Twitch chiming in that says that they've had Korean fusion poutine the other day, and it was incredible.
I am a big poutine fan. This past year was my first year visiting Canada. Got to see a bunch of Canadian cities, which was fantastic, super exciting. But that was also my first time getting like real poutine in Canada, obviously, as well. I'd had it in the States, but I feel like everything that is Canadian is better there. Got it in Montreal. What could be better?
So wait a minute. You had never been to the country of Canada at all until last season.
Yeah, it was my first time.
How is this possible? What's going on?
I just never made my way up there.
Hung out in Vegas, went over to San Diego for a little while, stayed in the good weather.
No, until I went to Colorado.
Until we get up to the Mountain West.
But yeah, pretty much like I had done some traveling growing up, obviously, but I just hadn't gone to Canada. And then in my adult life, I was very focused on work, and wherever work took me, I was going. So like you said, I went to San Diego, went to Colorado, went to North Carolina. I'm now very fortunate to be back home in the heat, and I love it.
Sure.
Ice in the heat. What could be better?
Yeah, fantastic. We had a brief glimpse there of Mark Stone, and he had some interesting comments, I thought, yesterday, Stormy, and talked about, he was asked, I think, by our Gary Lawless, getting kind of following up the point of, you guys seem to be so ready for this right off the bat when you got into Phase 3, and he said it's one of the strongest locker rooms he's ever been in, and he pointed to, look, everyone took this quarantine seriously, but in terms of staying in shape, putting ourselves in the best possible position, if and when they were able to come back, which obviously they have been. And he said, what's not to like? We've got a great facility here. We've got great weather, right? We've got a great city. But he thought, what an opportunity with in many ways, a veteran group that they have. And, he mentioned you never really know how many opportunities you're going to get to win a Stanley Cup. And for he and the Golden Knights, they certainly have an excellent opportunity here this summertime.
And that really reminds me a lot, too, of what Riley Smith had kind of brought up when he was asked about the bubble scenario, and he talked about that accountability and everything amongst the players. But really, I think he was just saying we don't have a bad apple in this group, in the sense that somebody's going to make a wrong choice and that somebody's going to do something that would be detrimental to this team and put the team in jeopardy, because there aren't a lot of chances to win a Stanley Cup, and that is our sole focus and our sole goal.
Yeah, and he said, it's to do something selfish, right?
Right.
Would just, to the detriment of the entire group would obviously not be a good thing. Let's listen in a little bit more here on our next gen camp. Next gen camp is the Golden Knights, and once again, Pete DeBoer at the whiteboard as they get tuned up for the upcoming postseason.
Check drill, so run quick routes here, start to that one. Don't guess that rope, and then work to make sure we're connected, get three guys in that area, turn that pump over.
Dave Gosher, Stormy Bond, and Tony with you from Studio 31 here, City National Arena, as we continue to look in on the Golden Knights as they continue their training camp here on this Saturday morning. We also take a look at some of your comments and questions. Junie or Jowney, and I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly, on Facebook from Finland. It's 8:30 at night over there. So 8:30 on a Saturday night in Finland, tuning in to watch the Golden Knights practice. That's awesome. Matros watching on YouTube from Florida. Brian on the Facebook from New Mexico. And Gina in Riverside, California says that the Golden Knights helped her escape dealing with her cancer. So great to hear from you, Gina. And hopefully you're doing well. You know, it's amazing how much the Golden Knights, and I think sports in general, Stormy, but, you know, maybe just keep it here to the VGK, just, you know, how much I think people look forward in normal times to watching the games, to listening to the games, really as kind of an escape. You know, be it, you know, Gina in Riverside from obviously dealing with cancer, but just your everyday deal, right? Go home and have a beverage and watch the game or listen to the game, and it's a great way to kind of pass the time.
Well, and that's something too. Obviously, we know Robin Lehner and what an advocate he's been for mental health, but he spoke at length about that the other day when he talked to media just about how he doesn't really agree with a lot of people that say, why are you trying to force bringing sports back? He thinks that it really is important to people's mental health to have something to look forward to get excited about during a time that has been so tough in our world right now.
The Golden Knights continuing their practice here at CNA. Michelle on Facebook wants to know, will there be any of the crazy playoff beers this year?
There already are.
I was going to say, they've already Some guys took a break from shaving during the quarantine.
Jonathan Marchessault said the other day that, because he's got a pretty good beard going right now, he said it was longer and he trimmed it and he regretted it instantly, that he can't wait to get it longer. He's ready to go with his playoff beard.
I would love to grow one. It would look dreadful.
Mine too.
Yeah, that would be a look. That would be a look for Stormy. Stormy, we should mention, by the way, that Stormy has started to take up golf and had a birdie yesterday in her first legitimate round of golf.
Thank you.
So, on a par 3, obviously, unless you, it could have been a par 4.
I was going to say, thank you for not bringing up my par 4.
I was going to say.
That one didn't go so hot.
Like, legitimately had a birdie in her first legitimate round of golf.
I was super excited about it, and the person that I was golfing with actually had a very unfortunate hole on that one. His tee shot may or may not have just been taken really hard right, and mine landed 3 feet in front of the hole, and it was a very, very proud moment for me. But, I mean, hockey players love golf. They talk about it all the time, how important that is to them, even in the bubble situation. I wanted to get in on the action and learn a thing or two.
I'm glad you made the putt. It would have stunk of you.
It so would have been bad.
So were you nervous?
Fortunately, my putt-putt days really prepared me well for that moment. So.
And the person you were playing with obviously would this have been a male person?
It was. I said, yeah, his shot.
Yeah, and he was not psyched with his. Was he at least happy to see your fine shot?
It was more like a look of shock.
I said, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah, I was like, really? Really?
Yeah. Why can't you just be happy for me?
All in good fun.
Be happy for me. Vanessa on Twitter, so excited to see the Golden Knights on the ice once again. Certainly is. This is something that... Nate Schmidt touched on this earlier in the week, Stormy, that he's the Golden Knights player rep and was on, virtually all of these return to play calls. And he had said, at times they could be long, they could be tedious. And, it was hard to think of everything, right? You'd think you had all the bases covered from the league standpoint and the player standpoint, and then something else would come up. But he liked the fact, and, Shane's touched on this too, you had some high-profile players in the game, but, you think of somebody like Connor McDavid that was on this committee, but he said it took a while to make sure you had as much of everything as you could have covered to make sure that these are the protocols, these are the rules, this is how it's going to work, phase 2, phase 3, bubble, and so on. There was so much to cover as a league. He
said the CBA actually was the easier part,
yes,
which is
and by the way,
shocking. Yeah, like that's crazy to think given, the contention that can happen in those types of conversations and arguments. But this with the return to play plan, there was just so much going into it. And also that they had a good blend of veterans and young guys, like you were saying, the big names, but that there were guys who had been through the stoppage with the lockout. And then there were also young guys trying to look toward their future and their extended time in the league and what that would mean for them. So a good blend. Plus, he also said that it wasn't just him, that was on these calls, that a lot of the guys on the Golden Knights specifically wanted to listen in and wanted to make their voices heard with him that he could convey to the group.
Well, Shane had touched on this, and he would know firsthand, having lost an entire season to a lockout. They can be vicious. Some of these, the calls and the very contentious, but great on the league and on the players that they were able to kind of all get onto the same page. You see the Golden Knights continuing to go through their paces here at City National Arena. Once again, Gary Lawless is going to join us here on our show shortly. Werner and his 6-year-old son watching from Mittendorf, Austria. 7:30 p.m. over there. Austria is pretty high on my list, Stormy. Not that you asked, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
On the bucket list?
Yes. I'd love to do... I've done the Czech Republic. Well, I've done Prague, which is just one of the most beautiful places. But I'd like to go back and kind of do Prague, Vienna, Austria, maybe go to Germany a little bit. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do any of that anytime soon.
I was going to say, I was really planning this offseason on a trip to Italy.
Were you? I've been there. It's a good spot.
That backfired. Yeah, I know. You were giving me recommendations.
Yes.
I was really excited about it. But for the well-being of everyone, I will be staying home.
Primer Falls on Twitch says Stormy's going to be in the Masters soon. Let's not go bananas.
Wow.
I said she had a birdie yesterday.
I will tell you that before I actually went out, onto the golf course. I was doing some of those like cup putts in my apartment, really just bugging my downstairs neighbor, I know, so I stopped it pretty early. But I was joking around telling people that if my cup putting is any indication, I'm going pro.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Cup putting, you're ready to turn pro for sure. Let's listen in a little bit more. Our next gen cam, Golden Knights training camp continues in the Summerlin Hospital room. Our next gen cam at Summerlin Hospital Rink as the Golden Knights continue training camp, and we are joined by the lawman, Gary Lawless. in the house here this morning. Gary, the Golden Knights now their 5th day on the ice, of course. Went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Took Thursday off. Then got back at it yesterday and here again today. What's some of the things that have kind of piqued your interest as you've watched the group so far?
Well, we've talked about this a few times, but the fact that they are able to just, pick up with such pace. And Shane Knighty and Darren Elliott and myself were just watching practice over in the offices while you and Stormy were chatting. And Darren came in and sort of said to Shane and I, "What have you seen?" And right away, we both at the same time said, "Dialed in." And that has been right from the very beginning. And Darren he's been around the rink and seen, all of phase 2 as well. And he's been so impressed at how the entire organization has handled the situation we're in. The fact that the guys all, they were mobilized immediately. When we came back from Minnesota in the middle of March, that weekend, the training staff and the equipment staff, they delivered weight equipment, bikes to every player on the team. Every guy had the opportunity to have a little mini gym in his garage or his spare bedroom or wherever at his house. And that enabled them, right away. They started working out. And it was interesting. I was asking Riley Smith about this yesterday. Where did this come from, this commitment? And he just, we think we can win. And as a group, so we didn't want to waste this opportunity. We looked at this as a chance to get better and to have a competitive edge over the other teams when we eventually did come back. And I think they've done that. And to me, will it translate into wins? We'll find out. But boy, they've certainly put themselves in a position to dominate once play starts.
And the foresight, Gary, too, as an organization, and as you mentioned, as a training staff, to look that far down the road. It's easy to sit here now and say, yeah, that was great, but nobody knew how long this was going to last. I'll just speak for myself. I thought maybe a couple of weeks, right? Maybe by early April, mid-April, we might be able to get back at it. I don't know if any of us thought we were going to be, here we are in mid-July before they get back to a training camp scenario. But their ability as a group to be, as you said, dialed in, their pace has been great, their tempo's been great. And I don't know where a lot of other NHL teams are, but in terms of this team, with such a short window, you don't have time really to kind of ramp it up too much. It's get right into it. You'll be in the bubble before you know it.
It is interesting when you speak of foresight. I can remember earlier on that trip, either on the flight to Edmonton or the flight from Edmonton to Minnesota, some of the medical staff sits right behind me on the plane, and we were talking about COVID, and we were so in the dark at that point in time. But one of the guys said, as soon as a player gets it, that we're going to shut down for a while, which was exactly true, right? As soon as a guy in the NBA got it, bang, the league's all shut down, and so they must have been thinking about it and had some form of a plan in place in case, because to mobilize as quickly as they did, like I think they had to have extra weights on hand, extra bikes, whatever they thought guys were going to need. There must have been a little bit of foresight, to use your word.
Well, continuing to watch the Golden Knights here at City National Arena on the Summerlin Hospital rink, and as always, we check in with some of your questions and comments. Vicky on Facebook says she can see the exact spot where she normally watches practice from, in the stands, of course, in normal times. We have Drozba1234 on Twitch says, "Let's go Lawless." Obviously, a family member of the Law Man.
Thank you, Drozba.
Dave asked the question, not me, but another Dave. Interesting, Gary. Seattle's coming into the league, not this coming season, but the year after.
We hope.
We hope, and that's Dave's question: is how would this affect the Seattle franchise in terms of them moving forward?
Yeah, well, we're all waiting, I think, for a vaccine or to get this disease under control so that we can get fans back in the stands. I don't know if you could launch. I guess you could. I guess if you're that well healed, you could say, okay, I've just spent, what did it cost them, $650 million?
A lot.
That was their expansion franchise. And then they've done a $500 million renovation at least on the Key Arena in Seattle, and just on and on and on. All the money that they've spent, you'd think you'd want to be able to sell tickets and have some revenue coming in before you started. But So hopefully that's not delayed.
Lefty all around on the YouTube says that we don't read the chat. Well, yes, we do, Lefty.
Come on,
all
Lefty.
around. I mean, this is we're just. It's all I do is read questions and read your comments.
Really, Lefty. I think Lefty trolled us.
That could be.
I think that's what that was.
But
We
Lefty,
got trolled.
Thanks for watching,
Yes.
listening, whatever it might
Absolutely.
be. Mark Stone, Gary, he met with the media yesterday via Zoom.
Yeah.
And he talked about, this is the most veteran, strongest locker room he's ever been a part of. Obviously signed up here for a long, long time, but, just his role, and it seems like he's really kind of led the way in a lot of ways to the mindset for this group. And if you're thinking about eventually they're going to name a captain of the team, I think he's pretty high up on that list.
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting. Ryan Reeves said to me shortly after Stone arrived, I was asking about something, and he just kind of cut me off, and he pointed at Stone and said, he's the captain. He goes, it's not what he says, it's just the way he does everything, the way he treats everybody, the way he approaches everything. He goes, there are guys that you follow. He said he has not been here very long, and we follow him. So obviously you and I won't get a vote. This will be a decision.
No, they don't care what we think, nor should they.
A decision made by others a little higher up the food chain in the organization. But hey, listen, Nate Schmidt has obviously played a real big role in terms of leadership, being the team's player rep on the NHLPA committee. So he's an important voice in that room. Marc-Andre Fleury remains a big part of the leadership group, and there's a ton of guys in there that could be captains wherever they are. Mark Stone looks like a captain to me.
The Golden Knights training camp continuing here at City National Arena as they get ready, along with the other 23 teams that have qualified for this year's playoffs, to push forward to the 2020 postseason. You mentioned Nate Schmidt, Gary, and he and Braden McNabb have been attached at the hip here for a while. The Golden Knights, at least so far, by the looks of things, they've tweaked their forward lines a little bit, but the same 6D that we ended with before the pause looks like that's what they're doing here. But that pair of McNabb and Schmidt and what they bring to it on a nightly basis.
Well, I think that the emergence of Shea Theodore, the addition of Alec Martinez, like that looks like a natural top pairing. You've got a guy in Shea Theodore who can create offense, can run a power play, can, Shea, as Shane tells us all the time, the one thing that Shea does that not a lot of other players can do is he transports the puck, but he has his head up the whole time. So lots of guys can get the puck from blue line to blue line. And then what they do with it after, do they generate offense? Not as many can. Shea can. Shea can decide to drive himself. He can move the puck around. He's got that head up so he sees the ice. So I think that pairing kind of moves a little more naturally into that number one spot. And then the emergence of Zach Whitecloud has given them a real good third pairing. So you asked me about McNabb and Schmidt. I think that they are really free to use them in any way they want. If they want them to lock people down, they can. They do move the puck pretty quickly. They can kill penalties. They are, to me, the minute eaters. And they can go out and play a lot of time and make sure they don't get scored on. Will they generate as much offense as Theodore and Martinez? Probably not. They can do a little bit of that, but you need to have long periods of a hockey game. It's a 3-2 league. And if you got to keep the opposition to 2, and those guys can really help you, give you 25 minutes and make sure you keep the other team off the board.
Well, the Golden Knights, and right now they're flooding the ice. Do we know if are they coming back on the ice?
They wouldn't be flooding right away if they weren't coming back.
I figured they would. Yeah. So
Yes.
Right now the Zambonis out there getting the job done, as you see. So the Golden Knights will continue on here. Back to the ice, but
Mike Grisati having a chat with his goalies out there, Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Leonard. And this, this pause, Mike took over the day-to-day goaltending coach situation shortly after Pete DeBoer arrived. And this pause, I would imagine this has been a really important time for him to tweak and work with Robin Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury in getting them to play, his way, his style. And, I would imagine that he would probably try and take a little bit of Fleury and put that into Leonard, and take a little bit of Leonard and put that into Fleury. And Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the most athletic goalies, and the thoroughbred, right? Like he can go to places with that athleticism that not many goalies can go to, but it also can get him into trouble because sometimes when the defense breaks down a little bit, Mark will chase, and I think you want to kind of Leonard a little bit more structured and a little bit more closer to home. I think Mike was probably trying to get a little bit more of that into Flowers' game during this pause, and then I guess with Leonard, it's interesting his size and his style. He never has a bad game.
Yeah.
He might not give you as many shutouts, but geez, if you get 2 past Robin Leonard, you've had a pretty good night. And that, the whole goaltending situation to me is fascinating. And Pete DeBoer said yesterday, I'm going to have a really open mind about this. And did you see the comments from Tuukka Rask in Boston yesterday? He said, I fully expect Jarro Halak to play during the playoffs. He said, I don't think any team is going to try and just go with one guy. It's a compressed schedule.
Yeah.
You're going to play 2 out of every 3 nights. And I really think it's going to be more like Major League Baseball where you have, your starting pitchers. It's not the same guy every day. And if you have 2 aces, why wouldn't you use them? I don't think Pete DeBoer would ever go to straight rotation. Like in just game 7 is, hey, it's your turn, you're playing.
You're up.
I'm not quite sure it'll be to that degree, but boy, oh boy, I'd be shocked if Robin Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury don't see playing time in every playoff series that the Vegas Golden Knights are in.
They've got 4 games before the playoffs start, right? You've got the exhibition game and then 3 round robins. Do you rotate? Not that they care what we think, but do you rotate them through those first 4 games and then make a decision for game 1? As you said, Gary, it's 65 days. That's all it's going to be, where they're going to cram in, this whole event, culminating with someone winning it in early October.
I would think that you would split that exhibition game. One guy plays 30 minutes, the other guy plays 30, and then you pick your starter for game 1 of the round robin, and then play the other guy in the second one, and then I'm not sure what you do with the third game of the round robin, and then you get into the next decision making process, and that is who starts in game 1 of your first playoff series.
But we've seen in years past, and maybe only we'll look at the last 10 years.
And that's just my guess, right?
Yeah. And we've kind of seen both. And when Shane's Bruins won the Cup in 2011, it was Tim Thomas all the way en route to the Conn Smythe. Jonathan Quick, carried the Kings to a couple of cups. Antti Niemi 1 year for Chicago, then Corey Crawford basically for the other 2. But then over the last little while, it has been, Jordan Binnington did carry the Blues last year. But if you back up, the year before where it was, and we saw with Holtby and Grubauer, right?
Yeah,
with Washington.
And then Murray and Fleury.
And
so,
the
Blackhawks often used, who did they have?
Darling was there for a bit.
And they had Corey Crawford. Niemi played some games for them. They've used some different guys as well. So I think it'll be fascinating. I also think it might be about style. If you get into a series against the Colorado Avalanche, for instance, a team that can really go lateral, I think a guy like Robin Leonard is an advantage there. And then, Colorado has lit up the Golden Knights in the last little while. I think it's 13 goals in the last 2 games. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's not a good stat.
No,
and Robin Leonard,
not good.
Robin Leonard didn't have any part in that. But I just think DeBoer will. I really think that this is going to be a decision that doesn't get made once. It gets a decision that gets made over and over again, and he will use different. I think he'll use them both.
Jonathan Marchessault, we touched on. He got a head start on the playoff here, as did you. But anyway, he's a guy that I think we always enjoy talking to because he's always got something to say. There's a little bit of an edge in a good way to him, and you always walk away from conversations with him having learned something. Your thoughts on where he's at with all this, the season he's had, and what you think he could bring here in the playoffs?
Yeah, well, he is another guy that Jonathan does talk a lot, but
two languages.
Yes, maybe a third when he mixes them together.
Fringlish.
Fringlish, they call it. He is a guy that also leads with, his swagger, and he'll drag his teammates into the fight. And I go back to that moment after Game 1 in the Western Conference Final in 17-18 against the Winnipeg Jets, when he just said after the first game, he goes, "We're going to be better and we're going to win." And they went out and they did. They fought, and he was great in that game. They followed him big time. I think early on, Marchessault is very important, he, if he can, when he shoots the puck, good things happen for him. When he has that high frequency number of 7, 8, 9 shots in a game, he's having a good night. And I think they're going to want that from him right away. Be Jonathan Marchessault, be aggressive, shoot the puck, and play with swagger and edge. I think you're gonna have to manufacture some emotion really fast. And I think he's a guy that can do that.
Some questions and comments coming in from all of you. Of course, thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. Tisha on Facebook asked the question, am I the only one yelling at the TV like it's a game? Probably not, to be honest with you.
Tisha, keep yelling.
Yeah. Okay.
Love the passion.
Yell away. Good question here, and we've touched on this in previous shows, Gary, but Brent on YouTube, the Waugh-Stevenson tuck line looking good.
Yeah.
What do you think they can bring? Obviously a newly formed line, and they've been together since they got into Phase 3 here on Monday.
X factor, right? Like that. To me, if Alex Tuck, we've been AT&T, Sportsnet has been replaying a lot of classic VGK games, and the playoffs in 17-18. He was such an effective player. Played with speed, went to the net, shot the puck. If he can unlock some of that again, I think that's a huge edge for them. Stevenson has been, just a brilliant find for the Golden Knights. They got him for a 5th-round pick out of Washington. And then Nick Waugh, no disrespect to Eric Holla, but I make that trade 1-for-1 all over again. He has started to develop into a really good NHL player. And how high in the lineup can he be? Can he someday be a second-line center? I don't know. Depending on, they've got some pretty good ones here right now, and where that goes with Krebs and Glass, on their way up. You want to build from the middle as an organization. Well, Nick Waugh really adds depth at center ice for the Golden Knights, and I'm real excited to see that trio play. Shane, in our conversations away from the rink, has really been high on that group and talked about them being X factor, and I would agree with him.
Waugh brings them something too, Gary, that they don't really have right now, which is a right shot center.
Yeah.
The ability, and we've seen, Stevenson sometimes play the middle on that line as well, but, Nick Waugh's a guy, especially right side, right shot, strong side, could certainly help in that area.
And, people, I think players develop at different rates and different paces. And Kelly McCrimmon says everybody runs their own race. Well, Nick Waugh was a dominant player his whole life. One of the best players in midget hockey in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. A great player in the queue, played for Team Canada at the World Juniors, went to the American League and kind of got his feet wet for a little bit, but then became a dominant player at that level against his peers. And I've told this story a few times, but maybe you haven't heard it before. Nick Hague and Cody Glass and I were having breakfast at a roadside diner in Cheyenne, Montana. You slept in that day. We were
sure I was resting.
Yes, we were on the VGK road trip, and I had to get up at 5 a.m. to go do Good Morning Cheyenne on the local ABC affiliate, I think it was. Anyways, and Nick and Cody and Nick, they drew the short stick and they had to come with me. Anyways, we had breakfast after, and I was asking, they had just made the trade for Waugh, and I was asking about him, and I think Nick kind of forgot that Cody was there, and he's like, oh, well, he killed us in the final. We couldn't get the puck away from him. He just ate our centers alive. And Cody just, I'm right here.
I was one of those centers.
I was one of those centers. And, I think that really caught Von Karpen's attention, director of pro personnel for the Golden Knights. And I think, he was sold on this guy. And when the opportunity was there they had to shed some cap. And when the opportunity was there to get him, I think that, those guys really pushed for Nick. But my point here is that now he's established himself as an NHL player. Well, Nick Watt isn't content to just be a bit player and to collect his salary and play on the edge. He wants to take a big bite and be a real large contributor, and it won't shock me at all if that's what he becomes. I'm excited to watch him play in the playoffs.
Wherever they've asked him to play this year, right? Fourth line center.
All over the place.
Wherever you want him. Kill some penalties. When Mark Stone was injured right before the pause, bump him up to play with Carlson and Pacioretty. No problem at all.
Yeah.
So, just what a deal he's been, and what a real good young player that, I think the sky's the limit for him as they move forward.
Moratorium on that breakfast story. I can't tell it again for another month.
I've heard it. It's incredible. I've heard it enough. Speaking of Cody Glass, Diggity Dog on the YouTube
What's up, Double D?
wants to know, do we think Cody Glass is going to be a star for the Golden Knights for years to come?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, won't see him in this playoff, but yes, we do.
I think that injuries got Cody into the lineup early this year, and I think another full year in the American League probably would have been, or most of the season in the American League, and then joining the Golden Knights later in the season would have been the perfect situation. That didn't happen, and I do think his development will take off, and I also think he's going to get a little bit bigger. And if you've seen his father and his brother, they're both really big men, and I think Cody's got some growing still to do and some filling out to do, and that'll help him.
Well, you mentioned, Gary, Cody Glass, Peyton Krebs, who's with the Golden Knights right now, the VGK going through a little bit of a power play work. And, of course, over the last couple of days, the Golden Knights making an official and signing Jack Dugan out of Providence College, a fifth-round pick back in 2017, led the nation in scoring in the NCAA last year, also led them in assists. Interesting to hear Kelly McCrimmon say there are players you think should get drafted higher.
Yes.
He thought he was one of those, but and he also mentioned that Will Neckel does a terrific job of the Golden Knights in terms of player personnel and scouting, and he has seen Dugan play a ton, and I kind of reached out to him yesterday. I said, what impresses you about his game? He said his 200-foot game, his ability to really commit to playing away from the puck is improved, he said, and he can play it any way you want it. He can play a skill game, he can play a physical game, and he says his vision above all else is something that really has impressed him, his ability to see the ice, to see the game. And another, you talk about trying to build this organization long-term, Gary, another potentially big piece of it would be Jack Dugan.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So do you, I know you went to BU, and that's,
That's the only school in Boston, but press on.
Yes, But
We got a northeastern person. In
you
the
are
room.
you
We
are
can get into BU.
You are a Providence. You are a Rhode Island
Yes,
guy,
Rhode
and you
Island.
worked in Providence
Yes.
for the P Bruins.
Yes.
So does Providence get a soft spot for you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah? Providence College is
yeah,
okay.
because it's the hometown,
Yeah.
the home state. Well, University of Rhode Island, I guess.
Yes.
Is the state school. But yeah, Providence
Was
College.
Providence College on your list? When,
No.
No, just BU or bust.
No, there was a lot of them on there. I'm not sure how many actually wanted me to actually attend. No, BU was at the top of the list. I will tell you, Rhode Island being such a small state. Now, Jack's from Rochester, New York. Jack Dugan. Rhode Island being the smallest state in the country, I kind of wanted to break out of that a little bit, and branch out a little. Not that Boston's thousands of miles away. It was a whopping 50 miles, but no, Providence College, great program. Nate Lehman has built that into
Yes.
a powerhouse, and of course won the championship not too long ago. But for the Golden Knights, the present looking like good things could be upon them, and then as they continue to build for the future as well. Let's watch and listen in a little bit on our next gen cam as the Golden Knights continue to go through their training camp here at City National. Our training camp bulletin continuing here from City National Arena. Dave Gosher along with Gary Lawless. The Golden Knights going through a little power play work, as you can see, courtesy of our next-gen cam.
What are you sporting here for a T-shirt today?
So I was wondering if you can. My laptop's in the way. So this is the Silver Knights and the Golden Knights situation.
Simply night hockey. I like that.
See that right there?
Yes.
That was a free item. Very nice. Do you have one? Did you get one?
There is one on my desk, but it's a little big for me, which is.
I know you're trimming down.
No, I wasn't referring to that at
come
all.
on
Just
now.
it's I'm swimming in it. That's all.
Look, can you get me the size that would fit me, please? VGK Boy on YouTube wants to know if the Golden Knights have an advantage with Pete DeBoer behind the bench over other teams in the West.
Well, I think Pete's an excellent coach. Craig Berube just won the Stanley Cup as the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, and you look what his team has done. They were very good this year and really good at the pause. And I don't want to go through every coaching staff in the West, but listen, I think Pete DeBoer is a guy who's taken a couple of teams to the Stanley Cup final and has proven to be, a top 10 coach in the National Hockey League. I love his staff. I think he's got a real good mix. Steve Spott, kind of his right-hand man. They've been together since working together in the Ontario Hockey League. Ryan McGill and Ryan Craig have been the original members of the Golden Knights staff here. Gilly is a veteran coach who has won the Memorial Cup as a head coach in the Ontario Hockey League. He's done it all in hockey, from head coach in the American League, assistant coach in the NHL. Been around, done a little bit of everything, and is really, what's the saying, adapt or die, right? And Ryan, I think, has continually learned and got better. And Ryan Craig, one of the, the real bright young stars in the coaching field, a guy who captained just about every team he was ever on. He was captain of the Brandon Wheat Kings in the Western League, captain of I believe 4 different American Hockey League franchises, including captain of, I don't know if they were the Cleveland Monsters or the Lake Erie Monsters. When he won the Calder Cup, he was captain of that team just before he retired and became a coach. So I love the staff in Vegas.
Well, the Golden Knights continuing some power play work. We saw a moment ago, Gary, Tomasz Nosek, and we mentioned some of the tweaks that the Golden Knights have made to their third and fourth lines.
Yeah.
The third line didn't exist before the pause because of injury to Alex Tuck, obviously. And the fourth line most of this season has been Tomasz Nosek, Ryan Reeves, and Will Carrier. But since training camps get underway, as Max Pacioretty beats Marc-Andre Fleury, since camps get underway, it has been a different wrinkle in the middle of that fourth line with Nick Cousins in there in place of Nosek, and you wonder, Tomasz Nosek, how's he handling this right now?
Yeah, well, I think, this will be an opportunity for him to, you have to stay fresh, you have to stay mentally, engaged and be ready to go because, if the Golden Knights stick with the same lineup for the entire Stanley Cup playoffs, there's probably going to be a parade down Las Vegas Boulevard.
Whatever form that would take.
At some point in time, because health becomes just a massive part of winning the Stanley Cup, and I'll be shocked if Tomasz Nosek isn't involved at some point in time. And he's an important player. That depth at center ice, really, to be able to plug him in if you do have an injury, and I think he would, if they had an injury in their bottom 6, he would go in and play on the wing or in the middle, wherever there was an injury. That's a real luxury to have a guy like that.
You're going to need contributions up and down your lineup. You mentioned earlier, Gary, AT&T Sportsnet has aired a ton of classic Golden Knights games, and one of the things I had forgotten about a little bit with the passage of time was the fourth line in Game 1 of the Cup Final against Washington, and the only win, obviously, for the Golden Knights in that series. Reeves, Nosek, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare at the time. The difference makers they were in the second and third period of that Game 1. Tomasz Nosek with his first 2-goal game in the NHL, but especially, and it even maybe underscores the importance if they could get contributions from the bottom six of their lineup. You see it a lot, right? The top two lines cancel each other out in the playoffs,
Yep.
or at least they can be negated a bit. Boy, if you could ever get some depth scoring from some of the rest of that lineup, you'd put yourself in a real good spot.
It'll be interesting to see, depending upon the opponent, if they do mix up that fourth line and use, a guy like Nosek who might bring a little more offense than another player, because you don't lose anything defensively from when you have him in the lineup. He is a big guy. He can play physical. And, if you go back in his career, his last sort of full year in the American League, he was a member of the Grand Rapids Griffins, and they won the Calder Cup. And he led his team in scoring and was, Dan Duva covered that series. I think they beat Dan's Syracuse Crunch in the final that year. And he talks about Nosek, and in his mind, Nosek was full value for MVP of the Calder Cup playoffs that year. So a guy that can perform well in the playoffs is always useful.
Stephanie on Facebook asking which players we think will step up as leaders for the Golden Knights in the playoffs. Just my 2 cents. I mean, their two best players most of the season have been Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty.
Yeah.
They were fantastic along with Paul Stastny when you think back to the playoffs of last year in that first-round series against San Jose. So as much as we say sometimes your top two lines can be negated to a certain extent, I also think if you are going to break through and do any sorts of damage, your elite players really have to lead the way, and those two especially have been fantastic all year long.
Yeah, and I don't expect that to change. The other guy here who to me is a very important piece of this is Riley Smith. And Riley was excellent this year. Had a great season going, and we've heard both Pete DeBoer and Gerard Gallant talk about his game at both ends of the ice. He's an excellent skater. He is in elite condition, and he skates very well at the start of a shift, but just as well, not just as well, but very close at the end of a shift as well. He doesn't. He's not an effort-based skater that clogs down after 30 seconds. He keeps going, and I really like Riley's game, and I expect big things from him in the playoffs.
Career high for Riley, 27 goals this year. Was on pace to eclipse the 30-goal mark. Of course, with the shortened season, put an end to that. Another question, Gary, about that's an interesting one. Which team do we think will make it out of the East?
That is a great question, and I really like the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think that they overachieved all year long with a lot of injuries. I'm surprised that Mike Sullivan, he's on my Jack Adams ballot. I had they've released the finalists, so
yes,
I can.
It was Vigneault, Tortorella, and
Bruce Cassidy.
Bruce Cassidy.
And my ballot was Cassidy, Sullivan, and Tortorella. I did not have Vigneault. Vigneault's very deserving as well. But I just think that what Sullivan was able to accomplish in Pittsburgh with a banged-up lineup, and now they're healthy, and I think that gives them a big edge going into this. And the other thing is for Sidney Crosby, who is getting towards, not the end of his career, but pretty soon he's going to be on the back nine. And how many more chances will he have to win? And for him, that regular season, it always seems to be when he gets nicked up, and it drags him down a little bit. He still, for me, is the best player in the game. I think Connor McDavid might be better offensively, but if I had to have one guy at center ice for a complete game, to me it is Sidney Crosby, and he's got an opportunity right now. 16 wins. Actually, no, they need 19 wins.
They need 19.
They're in the play-in portion, but can he get to 19? He certainly can.
Hard to believe. He's been in the league 15 years. Drafted in 05, right?
I think so.
Number one overall in 05.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, I think Pittsburgh's got a great chance unless Carey Price stones him in the first round.
Well, for sure. You know what I mean? Like you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, they get Tortorella and the Blue Jackets in the first round, and I do think that the Leafs are very dangerous offensively. And this is the thing. We don't know what the hockey's going to be like. Is it going to be November, December fire wagon hockey, or is it going to be May, June, grinded out hockey. Probably a little bit of a mix.
Yeah.
But I think the Leafs, if they could get on a roll, they could be a dangerous team as well.
A lot of good teams. Boston, number 1 overall in the league at the pause. Look like they're primed to make a good run.
I
right?
shouldn't have left the Bruins out of there.
Tampa
for sure.
Bay, Steven Stamkos is recently dealing with a lower body injury, but
He's questionable for their exhibition game.
Yeah.
I'm reading reports out of Tampa today.
Vasilevsky, of course, one of the Vezina finalists. The Flyers were probably the hottest team in the East at the pause. So, there's a lot of teams that, you look that could certainly come out of it in both the East and quite frankly, the West. I mean, you look at the top 4 in the West that have all had, terrific seasons. And then, I know Shane mentioned this too, Gary, and you could certainly, your connections to Winnipeg and the Jets, and that's Connor Hellebuck, one of the best finalists. That is a dangerous team, especially with the firepower they have up front. They had to remake their blue line, obviously, but there's guys that could do a lot of damage up front for that team.
Yeah, the Jets to me I would agree with you. They're a quick strike team, and they have the potential. They're playing a really good team in Calgary, though, so that actually might be, you look around at those play-in series, the best 3 of 5s. That's one I'm very fascinated to watch. Chicago, Edmonton, I think will be very interesting. You mentioned Pittsburgh, Montreal. Columbus, Toronto is going to be a doozy. I'm actually really excited about the exhibition games.
Yeah.
But Toronto and Montreal, Vegas and Arizona, like they picked a lot of rivalry games for these exhibition games. They're going to be fun to watch.
Jacob256 on Twitch says, "Go Terriers." We love you, Jacob. Thank you. That's a BU Terrier.
So I have a funny story to tell for the viewers. This winter, George McPhee asked me to do a small favor for the Boston College men's and women's golf teams. George's son, Graham, is at Boston College. And I completed the favor, and then recently I received a care package from the good folks at Boston College, and it's a Boston College shirt, and I haven't worn it yet. I'm waiting for you to have a barbecue.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I can wear it to your place.
I encourage you to quickly throw that in the trash can, which you did not, as usual, did not listen. Thomas watching on YouTube in Scotland.
Hey, Tommy.
That's on my list as well. I have not been there. Been to England, been to Ireland.
That's Tom is just watching. He's not. He doesn't have a question.
Well, he does, and it's an interesting one.
All right.
Do we think that there'll ever be a Scottish player make it to the NHL?
Your son, Tom. I think that's going to be. That's going to be
your son, if you have one.
Yes. Yes. So
there you go.
I have no idea. I am not really familiar with Scottish minor hockey.
They have the UK Elite League, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so.
Haggis is. I think it's good for a player. Maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know either. I have no idea. Yep.
Listen, if it means we can get a good rate on some single malt, we're all for it.
Let's get down to the real important stuff. Thanks for chiming in, Thomas, from Scotland. We've had some great questions, some great comments here today. We're going to listen in once again in our next gen cam. Golden Knights training camp continuing here at the Summerlin Hospital Rink. Well, it looks like the Golden Knights just about ready to wrap up their 5th day on the ice here at City National Arena, and training camp continuing. So they went for about an hour and 10, I guess, today.
Yeah, I think they started about
with
10 after, yeah.
Yeah, a quick flood in there as well. But, yeah, the Golden Knights continuing to push towards, we were saying earlier, Gary, Stormy and I were chatting that a week tomorrow they head to Edmonton to get into the bubble, and then not long after that, the exhibition game, as you mentioned, against Arizona. 3 round-robin games, and then off and running for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
So what are you thinking, 5 more practices?
Probably, right?
Maybe 6?
Probably have a day off this week.
Yeah, probably take a day off. And
Yep.
will they practice the day they travel? We don't know yet.
don't
Actually,
know
they're
yet.
not in charge really of the NHL will tell them, you can come now. Because of the landing and the checking in they got to go straight from the airport to the hotel, to the bubble, and they'll want them to be, that will be very coordinated. They won't want everyone arriving at once and all sitting around together in the lobby. They're going to want one team coming in at a time. So whether or not they practice, I guess, will be up to the NHL and how they're scheduled.
Well, thanks to the Next Gen Camp for all the great shots here at practice today at Summerlin Hospital Rink. And, of course, thank all of you for watching on all of our platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. And also thanks to our new subscribers on YouTube and Twitch as well. We're going to be back tomorrow, same platforms, and for more coverage here from City National.
Yeah, now, so we'll go from here, you and I, and we'll watch the Zoom interviews that take place, and we'll participate in those. And you'll be able to catch those on our, in particular on Twitter later this afternoon when they get posted. You'll be able to see what the guys and what Pete DeBoer had to say after today's session.
Well, for Stormy and for Gary, I'm Dave, and thanks so much for tuning in here to the Golden Knights Training Camp Bulletin at City National Arena. Lots more coming up tomorrow as the Golden Knights push along through Phase 3 and push towards the 2020 Stanley Cup Playoffs.